it is. My name is Sun Woo, and we are live once again. We have a sunny morning. Yes, it is hot in this studio again. Super hot. As you can see, Sweetie is chilling with me, and she's got to take it real easy in this heat. And the topic of today's video is the Ableton MOVE. Is it a good Groovebox or is it not? I only had this for a relatively short time. Or rather, I've had it for a little while that should have given me time to get to know it. But I just took my time and only played with it when I felt like it, because I've got other things that I'm more used to when I want to get to making music. So I sidelined this a little bit and only spend very little time with it. So basically it is like I just got it and I'm giving you my first impressions. And yeah, overall I think it's a pretty cool device. It has its own little niche and it is a valid contender. Of course, there are many Grooveboxes these days that do compete with it. There's the Novation Circuit Range, there's the KO2 from Teenage Engineering, the Roland P6, I guess, and others. But each Groovebox is a little bit different from the other Grooveboxes, and each of them has their pros and cons. Some are just samplers, some are just synthesizer Grooveboxes, some have song modes, some don't have song modes. And so what it comes down to, in my mind, really is oftentimes about workflow and your specific needs. What workflow suits you? What limitations are you okay with? Because in the end, there have to be some limitations with every device. No device can do it all. And oftentimes, if they can do it all, they get criticized for it anyway. So, yeah. You can't really win with that, because when it comes to the newer MPCs, they get criticized because they do everything. And that still isn't good, because then the way you interact with it isn't as good because it can do everything. And yeah, that's basically what it comes down to in my mind. Yeah, so why don't we talk about what the Ableton MOVE does good and what it doesn't do good, in my opinion. Again, I only use this for a short time, so this is not going to be an expert opinion. There are people out there who have used this a lot more than me, and probably have more valid opinions. But what I can say is that I have used so many Grooveboxes, samplers, and synthesizers that at least I can give you my opinion of how I think it compares to those in terms of workflow and just how it gels with me and how I like to work. So first, let's get to the more superficial stuff in terms of the hardware. What I really like is the size of it. I think it's pretty much the perfect size for a device. It's not bulky in terms of thickness, it's very thin, and it's not that much larger than the OPXY and OP1 Field, but I think what it adds in terms of width and height makes it really good for playing it on your lap. What adds to that is the rubber pads on the bottom make it nice and grippy. And also the weight makes it stay in your lap and yeah, just sit there. So I think size and weight are pretty much perfect in my opinion. Also, like, it covers the distance that two hands cover, so everything is really neatly in place here. Then in terms of buttons and pads, the hardware feels really solid, so everything, yeah, just feels how it should. The knobs respond in a nice way and they don't feel wobbly at all. Same goes for the buttons. I think they have a nice click to them and also don't feel like they will break immediately. Here I gotta mention that the step sequencer buttons clearly seem to be inspired by the OPZ, and the OPZ had many button fails that these would double trigger or not trigger at all. And although the buttons look similar, I don't think they are like the same build. I'm pretty sure these gonna last a much longer time than the OPZ. So overall, button feel really nice. Also, the buttons are not as hard to press as they are on the push, because many people complain on the push that they are so hard to press, and after a while your fingers get tired or they start hurting, especially if you do a lot of computer work. That can be a little bit annoying. I would say the only thing that does feel a little more flimsy is the jog wheel, but it doesn't feel super cheap, but I would say it's the least refined feeling aspect of the hardware. Also the casing, like, it doesn't feel hollow or anything. It feels nicely filled out and just like a nice slab of hardware to work with. Obviously, Ableton knows how to make pads by now. The pads, from what I heard, are the same as they are in the push 2, so very high quality and responsive pads. I'm going to connect the sound later, doesn't matter right now. Yeah, so the pads feel really nice. They are super responsive. I haven't had any issues with double triggers or anything of the like, so hardware gets a really solid score. I don't know what out of 10, but it is very, very good hardware, I gotta say. What else? I got some notes. I'm gonna look at my notes. Oh yeah, it's got a built-in mic, which I think every portable sampler should have a built-in mic, because you're not gonna always have a different source to sample from, like a radio or a music player with you. Maybe you want to leave your phone at home and you just want to make some music. So having a microphone is always super cool if you quickly want to record yourself singing or some nature or whatever. Built-in mic is nice, sounds good enough. Also, a big plus for them not using the rubber gunk anymore that they had on the push 1 and push 2 controllers that disintegrates after a while, the same stuff that Electron has on all their buttons. So this one is not gonna do that, which I am very happy about. Then in terms of connectivity, you got 2 MIDI ports, which I think is nice. So to this one, you can hook up a MIDI keyboard to additionally play the keyboard into, or any other MIDI controller. Here you've got the charger and the connection to your computer, USB-C. And then you got audio in and out with small TRS cables. I don't mind small TRS cables, not a problem to me. And on-off button is recessed, which I like, so you don't accidentally hit it. And also, if you hit it, you gotta confirm turning the unit off anyway. So that's a pretty nice safety implementation here. One thing that I think would be cool to have added here maybe is a MIDI TRS socket next to it, but that's nitpicky. But I think for some people that would have been cool. Otherwise, I think it's enough. It's just a small Groovebox anyway. Yeah, amazing hardware in my opinion. René is in the chat. Hello, hello. You didn't miss much. Just been starting, so yeah, 10 minutes only. Just discussing the Move hardware, and that is all. yeah, I thought this little live review format could be interesting. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say about the hardware. So good job, Ableton. Oh, in terms of, I guess this is somewhere in between UI and hardware. One thing that I really like is having sequencer keys as well as a method of inputting stuff into the sequencer at the same time. So in the same way the OPXY has the sequencer steps here and a keyboard underneath, this one has the sequencer steps here and a keyboard or pads up there, which means that you can just hold a step and enter notes onto that step and they're saved. And this is something that most of the Electron devices are lacking. Only the analog 4 and analog keys as well as the analog rhythm have this implemented. Otherwise, you always got to switch between either being controlling the sequencer with these trig buttons or controlling the notes with the trig buttons. And if you are controlling the sequencer with these buttons, then you can enter notes by twisting knobs, which obviously isn't as intuitive as just pressing a step and entering notes. So that is very welcome. And I think the Ableton people really had a look at what the OPZ was doing right, I believe, and I was a big fan of the OPZ and how it worked. So a lot of the things come very naturally here when you play with this. Like, a lot of things just make sense, and that's what I like. Yes, I'm going to get into comparisons to the OPXY a little bit later. If I forget, do remind me. And hello, Beat Jamming since birth. All good here. I hope you're doing well too. Yes, the Digitone 2 is quite expensive. Actually, I impulse bought one the other day and then I thought, you know what, I got too many devices and immediately put it up for sale again. Yeah, I just can't deal with another Electron right now. But it surely is a cool device. I like that it has drum synthesis as well as other synthesis built in. But one thing that I don't like there is that like the Digiboxes are getting to a point where you like each of the menu pages has like 3 or 4 sub pages that you got to toggle through. And yeah, it seems like it's getting a little bit cluttered. What I like about the Octatrack is that each of the different pages, the menus, only has one sub page. So you can just toggle back and forth between the two, but you don't have to press multiple times to go through multiple pages. And then if you go too far, you got to go back again. And I don't like that. Oh, why I put the Digitone up for sale again, I usually don't buy new devices, so I always look on the used market and sell again. And no, in Japan you can't just buy and return if you use the device. There's no such thing. All right. Next aspect that I want to talk about is the sequencer. And yes, here's one of the major strong points of this device, in my opinion. And that is the capture function. So that's one thing I love about this device, and as well as Ableton Push, I guess, as well, is the capture function. I think every sequencer should have this implemented. In case you don't know what capture is, what it means is that you can jam around and play something like this. And then, oh, that was cool. I like that. I would like to have that saved. Well, all you got to do is press the capture button. And actually, I'm going to hook up the sound now so we can hear this. Sweetie. Okay. So, and now it should have captured this into a sequence. Nothing yet. I don't know what I did. Can happen. Again, I'm a noob when it comes to this. So let's try it again. Now that we have sound. Yes. Bit louder. Okay. Let's try capture again. And it perfectly captured what I was playing, and it noticed the tempo and made a loop out of it immediately. So even if you don't know what tempo your loop is in that you want to play, you can just go by feeling and put something in on the pads and play around with the pads. And if something sounded nice to you, you hit the capture button, and likely it is going to put it into a perfect loop for you, and you can move on and do the next thing. And that doesn't only work for drums, but also for other sounds. So if I now play my sequence and come up with something, not a pretty sequence, but you get the idea. So the capture function, I think, is such an efficient workflow tool. Yeah, it's just so much fun that you can play something without the pressure of thinking, oh, I'm recording now, it's got to be perfect. Instead, you play something and then you notice, oh, that was pretty cool. I think I'm going to capture that and going to use it. So yeah, capture is just amazing. And I think my microphone is pretty loud, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit, put it a bit further away. So capture equals amazing. Then another thing that I like is how the page loop function works. So let me, for example, quickly double this loop here, the drum loop, which is also super easy. Shift and double loop, and it's doubled. And what's also very intuitive is that you see the step sequencer here, and I can quickly go through the bars of the step sequencer. As easy as that. So for example, if I want to remove the hi-hat from the last bar, select the hi-hat, get rid of the notes here, and we don't have hi-hats in the last bar. And that is something that I would like to compare to the OPXY, for example, because I think the way you can page through the different bars here is just super convenient and very nicely implemented. And the electrons, so like the Octatrack, for example, the older electrons at least, and the OPXY don't do this as nicely, because if you have multiple pages on the OPXY, you got to toggle through them. So if I want to get from 2 back to 1, I got to press repeatedly until I'm back on page 1. instead of just, going from 2 with an arrow to the left back to 1. So this is pretty sweet, and it may seem little, but that is something that makes me not want to use multiple pages on the OPXY, for example. Whereas here, I wouldn't mind using multiple sequencer pages because I can skip through them much easier and with less hassle. And also, which is something that is, I don't think, possible on the OPXY, is just looping one of the sequencer pages. So let's say I want to just make some changes on page 3 of my sequencer, but I don't always want to listen to the whole 4 pages and get to this page 3. On the Ableton MOVE, I could just select page 3 using the loop button here, and now it will just repeat the 3rd page of the sequencer of the currently selected track. At least it should do that. Or can I... Maybe I have to loop 2 pages, but at least I'm looping 3 and 4 now. Maybe I'm also a noob and don't know yet how to loop just a single page. Okay, double click it. And now it is just looping page 3. So you can loop one single page. You just gotta press the loop button and double press that sequencer page. And again, I didn't know how the function would be accessed to loop a single page, but just intuitively, I double pressed a page and then it kept looping that page or this page. So things here are very intuitive. And if I want to loop multiple pages, I press the first page of the loop I want to have and the last page, and then it loops between them. As easy as that. I hope that makes sense. I'm not good at explaining live. So let me check the chat. Yeah, Bjamin since birth is using MIDI capture with Ableton all the time too. Yeah, it's such an amazing feature. Yeah, the XY would need some MIDI capture as well, I think, and nicer slicing as well, probably. Tay, you wish that Fruity Loops would make a version of this machine. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I think the only things they made was like the Akai Fire, and the Novation launch key has a version for Fruity Loops. But yeah, I don't know if they're gonna get into this market. Yeah, so the OPXY with the pages, it cannot do page loop right now, and I think that's pretty poor, and I hate skipping through pages like this. So again, this is something the Move is doing absolutely way, way better in my opinion. And as many of you Ableton users know, the Move as well is working with clips, and I like how you... So clips in this case are like a pattern on other devices, and similar as on the OPXY, you can have different clips from different tracks playing at the same time. So you can have this drum clip playing, and which has nothing. So we have an empty drum clip playing here with the guitar, and then I can just switch the drums to a new clip and they are playing. So I can change whatever the different tracks are playing independently, which is very nice. The OPXY has that as well, and that is something that boxes like the Electrons are lacking. For example, on Electrons, a pattern always contains all your tracks. So if you want to switch from one to the next, all of your tracks are switching, and you have to keep that in mind for the workflow. So if you want to change just a single instrument, you got to copy the whole pattern, paste it, and then just change that instrument basically and make a separate pattern for it. So it's a different workflow on the Electrons, and I think this kind of workflow where you can have different patterns per instrument or per track allows for easier trial and error by combining different elements with one another. So that's something I like about the Move as well as the OPXY. One downside here of the Move, of course, is that it doesn't have a song mode. So selecting these clips here on the grid is a manual thing. So they will keep playing until I select a new clip somewhere, and then that clip will keep playing. There's no way to say, okay, first play this clip, then play that clip, then play that clip, and so on and so forth, which obviously is a very big limitation, meaning no song mode, whereas the OPXY, for example, has a song mode and an arranger. The Octatrack has a song mode and an arranger. Many devices have song modes. Even the KO2, for example, recently got a song mode that allows you to chain scenes together. Who knows, maybe they're going to integrate it in some way later, but I don't think so. They're saying if you want to make a song and finish it, you got to export the stuff to Ableton and finish it there. So far, it's not a huge issue to me, but then again, I haven't played with it so much yet. But it's important to know that there is no song mode. Fletch is asking, now that the Digitact has slicing, does a person really need the Octatrack? Well, no one really needs the Octatrack or the Digitact, but the Octatrack still has a lot of things that the Digitact cannot offer. It has 4 inputs instead of 2, and I guess with the Digitact you will never be able to really use those 2 inputs separately in a meaningful way, as opposed to the Octatrack where you could use the 4 tracks as inputs for different instruments and really treat them differently, so give them their own effects and their own LFOs and manipulate them in certain ways. So the 4 inputs are really 4 separate inputs that you can use for all kinds of things, as well as manipulating them in more interesting ways. So on the Digitact, the inputs are mainly used for sampling and maybe getting audio in, but then there's nothing much you can do with that audio. Maybe put some reverb on it and that's that. Whereas on the Octatrack, you can live sample your input and you can put effects on the inputs and sequence these effects, with parameter slides and LFOs and all kinds of things that make them a lot more interesting. For example, on the Octatrack, I would plug in my electric piano, and then first off, the Octatrack has more gain that you can apply for your incoming audio than the Digitact has, at least in my opinion. So I can raise the electric piano, which needs a lot of gain, to a good level. and then I can, I can apply a filter to it that has an LFO, and I can do some wah-wah, or I can do some tremolo, and I have 3 LFOs that I can use. So I can have one for the filter, one for the panning, and then I can put another effect on it, phaser, chorus, and whatnot. And the Octatrack allows you to have different effects on each track, unlike the Digitact, where you have your global reverb and your global delay. Yes, you have sample rate reduction and distortion per track, but again, those are more limited as well, because you cannot, like, all these effects don't have parameters that you can change in the sequencer as much. So on the Octatrack, you can have a chorus, and then that chorus, you can lock all of its parameters in the sequencer, like the width, the feedback, and whatnot, and make that chorus more interesting by parameter locking and parameter sliding it. And that's just not possible on the Digitact. Then the Digitact doesn't have any scenes, which is one of the big aspects of the Octatrack that makes it more playable and more fun. The scenes, I think, are such a great feature. So I would say, to sum this up, the Digitact has a much more restricted workflow. If you can work in that workflow and you're happy, then I think it's cool. But the Octatrack is just so much more flexible and allows it to fit in a lot more different workflows than the Digitact, in my opinion. The Octatrack plays better with other instruments included, because it has many inputs and can process devices in a more interesting way. To me, it still is the better instrument. But yeah, the Octatrack also has its limitations, like there are only 2 effects per track, and a filter takes up 1 effect. I would love a new Octatrack version where the filter comes as standard, and then you have 2 effects per track. That would already make me so happy. And then the Octatrack only has 8 tracks of simultaneous audio playback. Yeah. But otherwise, and the Octatrack has a more limited pitch range when it comes to the samples, at least pitching up. That can be sometimes a little limiting, but otherwise, I think the Octatrack is still amazing. I hope that helps. So, we talked about the Ableton MOVE. Let's get back to the Ableton MOVE. We talked about the sequencer last. So, I love the capture function. I love having the pads separate from the step sequencer buttons. That is always amazing. Talked about the page loop function, which works really nicely. Stepping through the bars works nicely. Copying bars and duplicating bars works really nicely. Editing the length of notes is just like on the OPXY. You hold a note and then you extend it over the sequencer, and you can see it change up there. But you can also hold the step and turn the wheel to edit the length of notes. So there are different methods of doing that, and that is also super intuitive. And as I said, I think they took a lot of the great aspects of the OPZ and implemented those things here. And yeah, I really like that. You also have copy functions here. So a dedicated copy button, which I think is nice, although I like how the OPXY and the OPZ are just doing it by holding a button and then pressing it somewhere. I think having a dedicated copy button is also very nice, because it also allows you to, like, copy a pad over and such things. So, and you can use this copy button for all kinds of things like steps. And yeah, very easy. Same thing for clips. Copy clip, paste clip, as easy as that. You got a delete button here as well. So if I want to go back and delete this clip, the clip is deleted. So copy, delete, and an undo function, which is always great to have. So the dedicated buttons here, they do make a lot of sense to me. Undo, copy, delete, mute. So you can delete, mute either single pads like so, or mute a track, all as easy as that. I don't know if I can solo. Yes, see, that's what I love. How intuitive is this? Here's the shift button, shift and mute plus a pad. Oh, it only works for tracks, but it solos a track and unsolos a track. So let me unmute this one first. And now I can solo this by using shift and mute and unsolo it. So things just are in a place where they should be. And that tells you that the designers really thought about all these functions. What does shift and copy do? Ah, I see. So that's also a duplicating. It duplicated the clip. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Let me delete this clip quickly and try to play some chords here. That didn't work, but that's okay. Okay. And now we got something that is a little bit more pleasant. So, what does shift and page loop do? Gets us into loop length times, I guess just in the loop length menu. Okay, yeah, where you can change the length of the loop. That does make sense as well. Then we got a dedicated sampling button. So depending on whether we are in a instrument track or drum track. So on the drum track, I could record something here, press pad, and it's gonna wait for me to make a sound. Ah, okay, it's from the resampling right now, which you can do. That's a function every sampler should have. If I want to delete this sound here on the pad, press delete and the pad. Also makes sense. Let's go here and change from resampling. Wait, how do I do? Ah, I click this. Okay. You can sample from different sources, and now the microphone is selected, and I can go. Sorry, sweetie. And it even on its own cut to the start point of me clapping. So it immediately did threshold detection as well. Very, very convenient. Sound doesn't sound nice, so I'm going to delete it again. But yeah, my point, everything is there that you need for easy access of many things. The next UI thing is pressing the shift button here. When I press shift, I see all these nice icons down here, and depending on which menu you are currently in, you'll see more or less of these, and these get you into different menus. So for example, if you want to see your sets, your projects, songs or whatever, you press shift and this little piece of paper or whatever this is supposed to be. You got a cog here for your settings, and then you get your settings, and so on and so forth. timing of the song. I really like this. This looks amazing. I think how it shines through, but when you don't press it or when they're not highlighted, you don't see the icons at all. This is a really nice hardware feature, and I think, yeah, very nicely implemented. Of course, these are not screens, so that means these icons are fixed. They can't be changed, so yeah, you won't be able to change this into another icon, but I guess they have thought through what they're putting into all of these functions, so it makes sense. And yes, let me go to the drums here again. Oh yeah, and this button here lets you toggle between your clips and then the instrument view or whatever it's called, I don't know. Next thing here is, so we had these already to toggle between the bars, and plus and minus goes octave up, octave down. So if we got our guitar here, for example, and I press down, I press this lower. And I believe if I press shift and plus and minus, I will pitch the sequence down. Or not. So how was this done? I think it's probably this. Okay, this one may not be as intuitive. So how do I do that? If you're in the chat and you know how to do it, how do I pitch down the track? So I can transpose steps, yes. Do I have to press? How do I transpose the whole clip? That is the question. Never mind, doesn't really matter for now. Usually the first knob. Okay, thank you very much. I thought, I was just wondering if you can do it for like a whole octave, as in that you transpose the steps that are in the sequencer. Because up here you're going to transpose the instrument itself, but not the steps in the sequencer. And I could swear there was an option to transpose the steps in the sequencer. But anyway, thank you for your help. This is very helpful because I don't know yet where all the knobs are located. So that is great help. One more thing regarding the intuitive interface is that here's the volume knob. So this is the main volume, but you can also use it to control track volume. So if I want to have my chords more quiet, I press the chords track and turn down the sound. And then the drums here, like a single drum pad, I can also press it and turn its volume down. Yep, you can touch the knobs. So that brings me to another thing. So these ones here, how this is integrated, I think is one of my less preferred aspects of the Move. So yes, you can touch these knobs and see what they're doing, but I don't want to have to do that when I don't know what a certain knob is doing. So this is just an extra step that's unnecessary, and that's the one thing I think about the UI that I don't really like so much, is that you don't get an immediate overview of your instrument. What you see on screen right now is like the main view of the instrument, but I think it doesn't give enough information. Yes, you see how long your loop is down here, but about the instrument, there is very little info. like the name is taking up so much space, which really is unnecessary. Like I don't need to see the name of my instrument that big. I would rather have information about what are the parameters that I can change. So what we're seeing here is like, this is the instrument. Then I see that there's a reverb and a saturator on it, but that's the only info that I get. I get the name of the instrument and what type of effects I got on them. And that is what I don't like. So unlike the OP1, for example, where, let me turn the screen up. Like, as much as the synth engines sometimes seem to be hieroglyphic, at least you see immediately which knob corresponds to which parameter on the screen, because they're color coded here. Same for the OPXY. Maybe not as good on the OPXY because of all the gray tones, but still better than on the Move. So I see, okay, this knob changes the tension, this one the impulse, this one the impulse type, and so on and so forth. And same for other synth engines as well. The color coding makes it easy to know what you are changing on screen without having to touch the button first to see, okay, this knob changes the attack, this one changes the hold parameter. And add to that I think, don't quote me, but I think these can be differently assigned per instrument. So not always will this knob change the decay unless you have it set up for this specific patch. So there could be, like, if you make your own patches, they're set up in a different way. And yeah, that just is not intuitive to me. I would like to see the parameters on screen, at least, that I can change, even if in an abbreviated way or something. And yeah, that's like just missed the mark on that one with the Move, in my opinion. And that's something the OP1, the OPXY are doing much better. And I think Electron devices really have nailed that concept as well, because you always see all of the parameters that you can change with the 8 knobs on the Digitact, for example. You always see them on screen, and they're positioned in a way that they are lined out like the knobs on the interface, or lined up like they are. I can't speak anymore. The values on screen always match the knobs next to it. And so that is my biggest UI gripe here, that there's so much of the UI taken up with the name and really almost unnecessary information up there that could maybe fit small descriptions of what the knobs actually are doing here. And I'm sure with time you get used to where everything is, but for someone new to the device, this is not perfectly laid out. And the next thing is that, yes, there are different pages that you can access, that you can access, and then you do different things with these knobs. So for example, if I turn this knob now, I will edit my reverb parameters or my saturator parameters here. I don't like accessing these pages with a jog wheel. I think the implementation, like on Electron devices, is much better, where you have, okay, here's my amp page. It says amp on it, and now everything I edit on screen will be my amp settings. Or if I want to get to my Effects 1 page, I press Effects 1, and then everything regarding my first effect will be there. I like accessing things directly, not using a jog wheel. I much prefer having buttons for these things. Again, that may sound like a minor thing, but in my opinion, all of these things matter when it comes to choosing your favorite device or choosing what you are going to pick up in the end to make music with. So if that could be done differently, I would be very happy. And then, good girl, sweetie. And then there's a second page. So let's get out of this. There's a second page on the synthesizers. So I showed you that you have your settings for the sound, for effects 1 and effects 2. But the sound also has a second page. And to get to that, you have to press Shift and I think turn. Yeah, turn to get to the instrument setup. So then we've got different parameters here. So here we can select the filter type and envelope and such things. And having to press Shift and turning it just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know why, but it doesn't feel right. Pressing a button is much nicer. So if that was implemented like these setup buttons down here are like Shift and pressing a button feels so much more intuitive to me than Shift and turning the jog wheel. Yes, it does annoy me. And also the fact that in the setup page, like I changed the filter type here, and then I got to go into another menu in the main bank to change the filter frequency and the filter resonance, that they are in two different menus, whereas on Electrons, if I do something filter related, it's always where the filter button is. Yeah, so that is something I don't really like. Maybe toggling through these different menus here could be done, like at least by pressing Shift and then tapping these buttons. That would be nice. That could be one way of getting around that, I think. Or maybe that if they stick with 2 pages for the main synthesizer settings, then you could have it that you have one page accessible like this, and the other page you access, or you toggle between them actually. That would be nice. Just toggling between these 2 pages by pressing Shift once, similar to how you would be doing it on the Octatrack or on the OPZ. And I think if it's just one page toggling back and forth, it wouldn't be a problem. Okay, you can lock and unlock Shift this way. So it's already taken up. Maybe that could be done a different way. Anyway, I'm yapping, but I think this viewpoint comes from having used so many different devices, and there are always little UI quirks that either work for you or don't work for you, and those things do make a huge difference in the end if you like using a device or not. And yeah, I don't like switching like this. I'll probably get used to it, but it's not something I would have implemented if this was my choice. Especially it sticks out to me because everything else is so nicely thought out and just works the way I want it to work. This is even more upsetting to me. So yes, downside here, I don't see what these knobs are doing on screen before I touch them. I would like to have a little more of an overview and not so much wasted space here. And I think it could still be implemented in some way. They could get rid of the preset name here and use that space for useful information, for example. They could have little icons for all of the knob functions. So, you could have an icon for transpose on the left side and so on and so forth. It is possible. Let me look in the chat. Yeah. Thanks for giving some feedback, and hello to everyone I haven't said hello to yet. Joe Y, Fate B, Denny Saint Hilaire. Alan is in the house as well. Nice to see you. have a good day too. And yeah, so if you just started watching, that was my main criticism part of the UI. Overall, I think it's really magnificently done. Hardware UI is all really nice. And then the next main limitation, of course, is the much discussed 4 tracks on the device. Yes, it has only 4 tracks. It is a limitation. I would like it to have 8 tracks, to be honest. I see that you can work around it. Yes, obviously. But 8 tracks would have been nice, nevertheless, just to not have to work around it. But you can do a lot with these 4 tracks, and the fact that you can resample loops pretty easily and have them chopped up on a grid and not and have that done automatically for you is very nice. And that's easier to do here, for example, than it is on the OPXY, where resampling proper lengths is something they are not too interested in, meaning that the loop is perfectly cut and sliced immediately. Hey Robert, nice to see you. And Joe, you're most welcome for the breakdown. Absolutely, my pleasure. Yeah, and I think, everyone's opinions will be different. I'm just giving my 2 cents here, but I think, what I can give is that I have used a lot of different Grooveboxes, and so I have a perspective coming from being a gear junkie and an addict, and just knowing many different workflows. So, I can draw a few comparisons. That doesn't mean that I'm an expert on the Move. I don't know many shortcuts, but I know what immediately stands out to me. And for some of you, like the things I criticize might not matter, but some may resonate with these things, and it may help in terms of making a purchase decision as well. And yeah, let me gather my thoughts quickly while looking at the chat if there are any questions that I've missed. Danny, yes, you wish the confirm button wasn't the knob. It's uncomfortable to keep pressing it. See, I agree. The jog wheel is not my favorite tool of entering things either. Yeah. Robert is asking, can you have more than one sampler track on the Move? Yes, you can. So you can, all of these tracks are flexible. So I could have drum tracks on all 4 tracks if I wanted to, and then sample into them. I can also use instrument samplers on all these tracks. So right now this is a synthesizer instrument, but if I press the sample button and press a pad, now it's a sampler. And I could also now make this track here, which now is a bass, into a sampler just by pressing the sample button and then a pad and going ooh. So I've got 2 samplers here, 1 instrument and 1 drum rack. So you could make all of these into samplers or play synthesizers on all 4 tracks. So that is pretty flexible. And again, how quick and easy it is to sample. So very few barriers in the way stopping you to actually get going and making a sound and playing a sound. And the same thing with recording a sound, that you don't even have to record, but you just play something and then record it after the fact is just absolutely amazing. I can't get over the capture feature, to be honest. That is, it's wild, isn't it? I go over here. Yeah, so whatever you play with the drums, and it captured the tempo and the drums perfectly. That is just so good. I can't get over it. The capture function and playing finger drums is so much fun. Yeah, Danny says too, it reminds you of the OPZ. Exactly. Very OPZ-like, and I think that was a good decision to copy many of the OPZ's functions. Yeah, let's see. Do I have any things in my notes that I forgot? Yeah, so the knobs to screen, in terms of the UI, quick recap, I don't like the knobs to screen integration and having to switch menus using the main jog wheel, and that the macros for each of the synth, like even if it's a synthesizer and another synthesizer, the macros could be in different places theoretically because it depends on how they are set up in Ableton, I believe. Don't quote me again. UI in terms of step sequence are perfect. Everything else makes absolute sense. One big downside is that while this does look good in a room that is not mega brightly lit or on camera with all these lights, once you take this device outside, it's going to be harder to see what's going on. And any device with brightly lit buttons or lit buttons in any way will have this problem that, yeah, it's just hard to see what's going on once you go outside on a sunny day because these lights just can't compete with that. That's one downside, but again, many devices have that, so it's nothing you can really hold against it, but it's something to consider anyway because it does rely on this kind of stuff. But if you're just using it as a sketchpad, it has so many functions anyway that you don't necessarily need to trust the lights. A lot of stuff will become muscle memory anyway, and the fact that you can just play things on the pads and then capture them means you don't even have to really look at the sequencer if you don't want to and like edit the steps separately. That's also cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for my quick review of the Ableton Move. Let me know in the chat, please, if you have any further questions that I may or may not be able to answer, or if you have any more feedback regarding what you like and dislike about the device, because I'd like to hear that too. Because again, different people will like or dislike different features. Yeah, and in the meantime, I will load an empty set and just play around with the device a little bit. I'm not gonna do anything finished. I don't know how long I'm gonna stream today. We already did an hour. But yeah, I'm just gonna play around with it a bit, and that's all. So when you load an empty set, another thing is that you always immediately have some sounds in here. You always have a drum kit, some bass, some pads. Just a second. Here you go. Here you go. Danny says, would love more sound design options. Absolutely. Yeah, that is one thing that is lacking a little bit, the sound design. And again, what is there gets neglected by me because I don't see it on screen. But yeah, it's not a deep sound design tool without resampling at least. Alex A, thank you very much for the question. By the way, is my voice distorting all the time? I think I am often distorting. But Alex A is asking, how is the battery life? So I don't know the exact time in hours. I don't know, did they say 4 or 5 hours? It's not as crazy good as the OP1 Field, but it's definitely enough. So I think it is 4 or 5 hours. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a comfortable battery life that you don't need to worry the whole time. Like, oh, is this going to run out? Is it going to run out now? It's pretty nice. So battery, I would say, is a pro and not a con on this device. Unlike the Push 3, which, I don't know, is probably empty after an hour or something ridiculous, or 1.5 hours, which for a portable device, in my opinion, that would just absolutely stress me the whole time. Oh, yeah, and the pads just invite you to play, so they just... Yeah, very playable pads. I like the size of them, you know, they're not too big. I think MPC pads, while they are nice, they just take up way too much space. Yeah, this is a good size. And selecting selecting sounds is also easily doable. So you go to track, and then when everything is lit up, you select the instrument, and then you click it again. Okay, let's do it again. Why not? Let's get a kick into the last bar. snare here too. And yes, the last bar is a bit weird. I don't... let me try... Okay, I'm gonna loop just the last bar. And I'll see if I can time correct only this bit. It quantizes the whole clip. Oh, but at least that sounds all right. Yeah, like the OP1 Field and OPXY battery life, they are on another level. Especially the OP1 Field, I think, is even better because it's got less CPU. All right, let's get... As a C, right? Okay. Let's see. Got some birds in the background. Yeah. Now I don't know what I played. Oh yeah. Cat hair everywhere, as usual. This time capture didn't work. Let's do it like this. I just love capture. this without this one. And without this one. So if any one of you knows how to quantize just the sound of a specific pad, that would really interest me. Yeah. Let's see. If I press a pad and then do the quantize. No. Sorry. Nah, it quantizes the whole clip, right? Oh yeah, one feature that I haven't even spoken about is that you got, so each of the drum kits can also have melodic instruments if you want, although each of the cells can only be monophonic. So you could theoretically have different instrument sounds in your drum kit cells and play them melodically, but again, each cell can only play one note at any given time. So okay, so shift, step 16, and then yes! Thank you, Fate B. So it can be done. You can quantize just one single cell of a drum rack, or it's not a real drum rack, I believe, but yes, genius. Thank you so much. And again, it does make sense. It's just the other way around than I did it, but pretty much same type of thing. Let's load a different instrument here. Let's see what we can do with the instrument itself. So it's got a chorus on here. And I guess we could exchange the type of effect. Yeah, okay. So this I like, that the effects can have presets. So that's nice. So you can here are the different effects that you can choose from, and then they have presets. Yeah, that's cool. That's absolutely cool. So you can theoretically, you know, have your own, I think, probably make your own presets then to your liking, so you can have your default reverb style. That's nice. Eric Pug, hello, hello. You hate to say, but you like Ableton now. Why? Because of the Move or just Ableton in general? I think the interface of Ableton is just what makes it so nice, that all your instrument parameters are at the bottom of the screen, very clean. I hate windows that pop up that you gotta deal with. Automation. Yes, let's try that. So let's duplicate the drum clip and see what we can do with the drums. So okay, this is not for the whole kit, right? Okay, so these are per sound, but these effects are per kit. Okay, okay. Maybe I change the flute first. What do I have here? Why is it not doing anything? Ah, okay, that's the chords. Yeah, so you can record things, and you even see them on screen, at least as long as the parameter is popping up. So if you hold it down, and you see that there's automation on this because it's red. That's also pretty cool. So what does the Indian flute here have to offer? Yeah. We could automate the sample rate. Okay, now what I would ask myself is, what if I don't like the automation? My guess would be to press X and turn the knob, and it's deleted. See, again, it makes perfect sense that it's implemented this way, and yeah, that is just so nice. So I could go to this one as well and press X and turn this, and the automation is deleted. I love it. And also, so for example, let's say on the snare drum we want some automation. I want the reverb send here. Okay. I want, where's the send itself? Ah, yeah. Okay, so here's the send for the snare, for the currently selected pad. You don't have to live record automation, but you can, as far as I know, also parameter lock this. And then, yes, perfect. Yeah, I mean, definitely just making this little live stream here encouraged me to try to get used to the Move more and learn it better. as I said, I had a bit of a gear overload lately, so I couldn't bring myself really to dedicate time to anything new. But I think it's worth it to learn this one better and get used to it and develop my workflow on this, because of course I will have to get into resampling and chopping things up to make the most of the tracks that I have here. But I think from what is in the device, it's definitely worth spending the time. Yeah, I hope they keep working on the device and just try to make some things about the UI a bit cleaner and give you a little more information, and maybe give access to these pages here in a different way. That just would be so nice, but I don't think they will, because this, I mean, otherwise the jog wheel will probably become redundant at some point. Oh, Andriy Dubetsky, thank you so much for this information. That is very nice. I see you are a Move specialist, so you say so what I asked earlier was if we can, or where we can pitch down the whole clip or transpose the steps in the sequencer, and you say that is in the loop menu. So we're in the loop menu right now, and I press down. Do I have to hold? Could be. Press a bar. Do I have to like press this? Notes transpose. Yeah, okay, I see. That was just transposed now by one note. Okay. So then theoretically I would assume if I hold these and press. Yeah, okay. We're getting there. Yeah. Thank you very much for the info. So you can transpose in the loop menu. Okay. And then an octave down is as I suspect it would be with shift and plus and minus. But then again, so you gotta, when you're in loop mode, you gotta press which part you want to transpose, and then shift and down. It's not transposing by an octave. So okay, that maybe needs to be fixed, or something, that you can do an octave up down for the whole thing as well. All right, I think today I'm going to keep the stream a little bit shorter and get myself some food. so I don't pass out. But if there's anything else you got right now, any more questions or tips or anything like that that you want to leave in the chat, I always highly appreciate that, because as you see, through your input, I learned a whole lot already today on this, and we got some questions answered and things figured out, so that's very nice. And yeah, I will make more videos in future with the Move, I'm sure of that. It always depends on the mood, what I want to put on the live stream, because especially on the live stream I gotta feel like it, because there are no edits. So if I'm not in the mood for a certain instrument, I don't really want to put it on stream. But yes, I will practice a little more with this. And by the way, thank you all so much for helping me reach 25,000 subscribers, or 25,010 subscribers now, something around that. I appreciate it so much. Thank you very much. And of course, anyone who hasn't subscribed yet, who is watching this, if anyone is doing so, please don't forget to subscribe. And of course, hit the notification bell, because then you will be informed about these live streams. I've been streaming more live lately, and it is important to press the notification bell and turn all notifications on if you want to see these live streams live, because otherwise YouTube may ignore the fact that I'm live for your home screen. And yeah. And what else? Oh, all of you in the chat, thank you very much for helping me out and having fun with me. If you want to help me out a little further after this video is done in just a minute, hit the like button and maybe even drop a comment underneath, because that always helps a whole lot. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it so much. And with that being said, I'm going to drop it here now. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next live stream. Sweetie says bye-bye too, and peace.